o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for joining us today. I know we have some other folks that will probably be joining in the next couple minutes, so we'll try to keep an eye on that. And I did post the link to our slides in the chat if you'd like to have those to follow along. You are joining NCEES Principal and AP Middle of Year processes for 2022-2023. We are going to be in WebEx meetings. We are usually in here. Let me close this little message. And please use your chat if you have any questions. Just put them in there and we'll make sure to get those answered during the webinar. If we can't answer them during the webinar, answers will go out in our follow-up by Friday after the webinar. We'll send that follow-up. And if you need to use closed captions, on your screen, you'll see the little blue circle where you can turn on your closed captions. And anybody with audio issues, I'm circling that right there. You might need to switch your audio to be able to hear. I am Cammie Nairn. I work for NCDPI on the home-based team under Digital Teaching and Learning, and I am your NCEES Education Product Consultant, or shortly, your NCEES Product Manager. Joining me today is Jennifer Bass, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jennifer Bass, and I also work at DPI. Cammie and I work very closely together, and I am the NCEES coordinator. So usually if you have any questions concerning policy about NCEES, I'm the person that you would contact. But if you have any questions at all, just always get in touch with Cammie or I, and we will make sure we answer or find out where we need to send you to get the answer that you need. So welcome this afternoon.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, we make a great team, so we get our answers back and forth and get you the answers you need, and you guys are great at helping each other as well. So, well, for sure. We are going to look at middle of year today. So on the screen is your agenda. We won't take time to read over that, but this is what we're covering for the middle of year processes for principals. So just real quickly, if you guys want to see anything, so Philip.
Yeah, I was going to say Philip's wanted to do a sound check.
Philip, can we do a sound check? Is anybody not hearing me? You're hearing me. So we've done the sound check. Can everybody either raise your hand or put in the chat yes or no? You can hear us? Philip can't hear us. So everybody else can hear. So Philip, the only advice I did put in the chat, and that's to check your audio choice. So we're going to have to move on in interest of time. And I don't know if I can see in here what his shows. Let me look real quick.
Phone. He's on the phone.
Oh, he's called in on the phone. You might need to switch audio. Do a quick note and we'll get started.
Okay. Philip says he can hear now, but he's called in, so we're good.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. All right, thank you, Philip. All right, so we're going to get back to our slides. Accessing NCEES, most of you know how to do this by now. I probably do need to update this screenshot because they did update NCEES Cloud. So your icons do look a little different now, but you're still doing the same steps, logging in through single sign-on. And when the dashboard loads, you're going to choose the NCEES icon. Principals, this is your landing page. So most of you know what these are. If you have a red circle on your envelope up there, it means I or somebody else has sent you a message. So please read those. And then the rest of these, you know, if you have any questions about this page, just go ahead and put those in the chat. This is the help guides page. These guides are very helpful. They have screenshots for every step, and they are labeled either view or do. So there's a guide for the teacher and support staff side. They'll have their do steps, and then the evaluator will need to look at their guide to look at their do and view steps. So make sure you look at those if you're going through. A lot of times people are going through their goals right now, and they're missing some of those little asterisks required areas. So these should show you what might be missing. Check your plan access rights. I know a lot of you are getting started to do the peer observations and things like that now. So your peer assigning those rights are done in administration staff management. This is the help guide for assigning access rights to teachers and staff plans. Yeah, you cannot assign access rights to the principal plans with this. So that is done separately, and actually your head principal already has access as the evaluator to all the assistant principals. If the head principal needs an evaluator, that is done with another guide. So we're going to talk about teacher and staff plans first. These are the roles or access rights that can be assigned. Evaluator, who can do all the observations and the summary evaluation. Observer, this is good for APs that don't need to do the summary evaluation. They just need to be an observer and do the observations. So that's a good one to assign to APs. Peer observer, for the peer observations, do not use the observer setting. Use the peer observer. The observer can start a peer observation, but they cannot sign off on the peer observation unless they have the peer observer access rights. So this person has the signing rights for those peer observer activities, so make sure you give them that. In the PDP plan, for those new beginning teachers that need a mentor, and the mentor is required to do their steps, this is the mentor activity on the PDP plans. View only, this is for people that just need to go view the plans but not edit them. And then reopen is the person that would reopen any closed steps. Most district administrators get this step except superintendents. They would have to be manually assigned the reopen if they need it, if they're a DA. The reopen also comes with the archive and delete rights as well. Any questions about that? Assigning access rights to principal plans. This is done over in staff evaluations, and only district administrators can do this. So if your district does not have a district administrator, you're going to need one, and I can set those. You would just open a support ticket and let us know who needs to be your district administrator. So the district administrator would go over to staff evaluations. They would open a principal plan, and from there they could assign the access rights on the principal plan. They'll see evaluator, contributors. Contributors only need to edit notes and artifact activities. Everything else is view only for them. Then there's a view only where the whole thing is just view only. And of course, reopen admin as well. Okay, we're going to jump into the principal evaluation process if we don't have any questions right now. Link the guides that are on the help guides page here as well. So I've updated these, and your principal evaluation process infographic as well is linked here. And I'm going to turn this slide over to Miss Jennifer Bass.
All right. On the slide in front of you, this is actually a one-pager of the principal evaluation process itself. So let's just take a look at the principal process and where we are at this time, which is step 4 and 5 for the mid-year. As a review, remember that you will meet with your principal if you are an assistant principal, or you would meet with the superintendent or their designee if you are a principal. You need to meet on 3 different occasions to complete your evaluation throughout the year. The initial meeting at the beginning of the year, and the mid-year conference, and the summary evaluation conference are the 3 times that you would be meeting to discuss your evaluation for the year. Let's look at step 3. That initial meeting happens at the beginning of the year. If for some reason you have not already met to talk about the components of your performance, that would include your self-assessment, your goal developments, evidences, data, or artifacts that should be collected, please get that done ASAP. All of the beginning of the year stuff should be done at this point before mid-year actually starts. Otherwise, your evaluation won't be relevant or reliable because all of the steps would not have taken place. So as we're nearing the mid-year conference, we should be beginning to collect data for your step 4, which is the data collection piece. At the mid-year conference, the whole purpose is to discuss the progress of your goal attainment and discuss your school-wide student growth data, which should be available very soon. Usually the Eval scores would come in 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after. Halloween is usually what they shoot for. So some of that should be coming available soon. You would also be discussing your school growth data that will inform how you as the principal are going to support your teachers, the practices, and the programs moving forward throughout the year, because you're talking about your growth as a principal or an assistant principal. So it's very important that you and your evaluators have a shared understanding of what your role and your goals are going to look like moving forward through step 6 and 7. So this is, as you're looking at steps 2 all the way through steps 5 from the beginning of the year all the way to mid-year, you're looking at your data and you're asking yourself, what adjustments need to be made? Am I doing well? Have I got all the evidence that I need? What else do I need to collect? Or what changes actually do I need to make to ensure that the goals that I've set at the beginning are going to be reachable by the end of the year? So what you're looking at now is an optional form that you can use during your mid-year conference if you choose to. It is not required, but it is very helpful if you choose to use it. This form will help you to document and guide your conference topics and your conversations with your evaluator. Again, this is a way to ensure that you have shared all of your understandings of your performances up to this time and what changes you need to make moving forward toward the end of the year. You can consider using this document or any other resource that you find useful to document the conferences that are had and what expectations you will have for the end of the year conference. So this is available to you and it is linked here if you would like to use it. And if you haven't seen this document, we have a link to the questions for the North Carolina School Executive Standards. This is specifically designed for principals and assistant principals to guide your understanding for those school executive standards. And it's a question tool. You can use this for the mid-year conferences and the end-of-year conferences just to kind of lead that discussion and to guide your thinking as you're completing your goals and collecting evidences.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Reopening your principal evaluation plan. So it's going to be very similar to get into the plan. You're going to open NCEES and go to My Evaluation, and just click on the plan that you are working in your principal plan. We wanted to look at the responsibilities. So I'll make sure I didn't skip a slide. Okay. The responsibilities in the steps in the plan. So the evaluator needs to prepare to supervise. You're going to review the principal and AP evaluation process, identify any strengths and areas for improvement of the principal, make recommendations for improving performance, and ensure that accurate information is collected. For the principal or assistant principal, you will be preparing for your initial meeting, your self-evaluation, identification of performance goals as we get towards mid-year. You're going to identify any change initiatives, gather all your data, your artifacts, your evidences, and develop and implement strategies to improve personal performance and attain goals. Then you're ready for your mid-year process. So here's the slide I was expecting a second ago. This is where you're going to go to My Evaluation. Staff evaluations is where you're going to go when you're evaluating or observing your teachers. My Evaluation is to open your own plan. So you're going to click My Evaluation. The blue line will be on your current evaluations, and you can click the title to re-enter your evaluation. Once you open the activities, you should see those green check marks done for your orientation, pre-evaluation planning, and initial meeting. Then you're going to get to data collection and the mid-year conference. Both of those steps are for mid-year. So clicking into the data collection container, there are two activities. The evaluator is going to see 3 areas. The principal is going to see artifacts and notes and the rubric. The evaluator is also going to see evaluator notes. These are personal just to you, the evaluator. If you have notes that you want the principal to see that you are evaluating, then put those notes in this section, the artifacts and notes, and then the principal can see those notes. But it will look just the same whether you've clicked on artifacts and notes or evaluator notes. It's just who can view it. So this is looking at a note. You would add a new note. You would put in some text. You could tag it to elements that align or standards that align to the note. You can, and then save it, and then you'll see the attached file. A lot of people don't know how to attach the file because it doesn't show until you've done a new note, put in the text, and then save it. Once you put in text, then you can attach files if you have files to back up the note. So the evaluator will complete the observation rubric down here and then share it with the principal. So make sure all the standards have at least one element checked. You'll be able to then share it and then finalize that rubric. So while you're in your mid-year conference, that next container down, you look for those asterisks. That's going to tell you what's required to do in here. So when you open mid-year conference, it is required to have that performance goal, a mid-year update. You need to update the original goals you set. You need to set new goals. Check all that and determine what you need to move forward with. Once your goals are completed and set up, that's shown down here. I've got the red line here to show. You can edit a goal. Make sure your mid-year evaluation date is set because that is required. Try to circle what's required. And then performance goals, you can edit those. You must have one aligned to human resource leadership. So if you've not already done that already, make sure you have one that is aligned to the standard for human resource leadership. And then right here, when you enter new, you can add that goal or one of the other goals aligned to a standard. The next containers down are your signatures, your acknowledgments for the conference that's going to be held with between the evaluator and the evaluatee. So this is just a look of what everybody can view. Whoops. And you're going to review your beginning of year goals. When you've clicked in here, then the evaluator signature. You can view or create mid-year goals or edit the previous goals. You can review initial, I don't know why it keeps doing that. You can review your initial meeting and mid-year comments, and then the evaluator would acknowledge once all the required fields are filled in. For the principal or AP, you'll see essentially the same thing. You're going to review your beginning goals and review your mid-year goals, review mid-year comments, and then acknowledge once you've reviewed and had that conference with your evaluator. Any questions about the process there? Now's the time to ask. So if there's no questions about the principal plan, it sounds like we're good to go on that. If you think of anything, just put those in the chat or please unmute and ask your question. I'm not seeing any questions right now, so we're going to move forward with what the principals need to do for the teacher/staff evaluation processes.
Okay, as you can see on the screen in front of you, this is the one-page visual that can be found on our NCEES forms, or it used to be on the wiki, and it also used to be on our Google page, which is now getting ready to go away, but we now have it in Canvas, and we'll share that with you if you haven't already seen it later on in the webinar. But if you look on the teacher evaluation process manual itself, this can be found on page 21. Our webinar is going to focus on the bottom section of this one-page visual, the red section, step 3, the observation cycle itself. So in the red, you see step 3 is the observation cycle, which includes observations and post-observations. Component 5, which is observations, is actually when the evaluator is observing in the classroom and checking the descriptors of the rubric while they're watching the lesson in the classroom. There are 2 types of observations. We get a lot of questions about this. There's a formal observation and an informal evaluation. The formal evaluation must last 45 minutes or an entire class period. The informal observation should last at least minimum of 20 minutes. A post-conference is not required for these 20-minute observations, but they can be requested by the teacher if they would like feedback from what you observed. Teachers with less than 3 years of employment are going to be on the comprehensive evaluation cycle. That consists of 3 formal observations from the principal or their designee, such as an AP, and it also includes 1 formal observation from up here. Teachers that have more than 3 years of employment will be on either the standard or the abbreviated evaluation cycle. The standard cycle would require 3 observations, and 1 of those must be formal and the others can be informal. If you have teachers that have more than 3 years of experience and are in their licensure renewal year, they would be on the standard cycle because you would want to evaluate them longer period of time and on all 5 standards. Now, the abbreviated cycle are for those teachers who have more than 3 years of experience and are not in a renewal cycle year. Those will include 2 observations that we're only going to look at standards 1 and 4, and those abbreviated observations can be formal or informal. That is up to the principal, however they would like to do that.
I'm going to interject a quick note just because I've been getting a lot of questions about cycle years that show in NCEES. There is a cycle year 1 for the people that are on 3 years of the beginning teachers. And then there's a cycle year 1 for the 5-year people. So they may see cycle year 1 in NCEES, but it may be because they just renewed for their 5th year. It doesn't mean that they are a beginning teacher if they're seeing cycle year 1 in NCEES. We get a lot of questions about cycle years.
Yeah. Thank you for putting that in. I do remember seeing a lot of that. Those questions come more to you than to me. All right, let's look a little bit at component 6, which is the post-observation conference itself. The principal shall conduct a post-observation conference no later than 10 days after each formal observation. The reason for this, if it's over more than 10 days before you can get back with that teacher to do the post-conference, then really you should redo that observation because we want that data to come as soon after the observation itself so it's meaningful and constructive. The whole point is we're working to accomplish the growth of teachers. So it's very important that we give good feedback in a very timely manner. This post-observation conference should focus on the evidence that we gathered during the observation, and the teacher should have an opportunity to reflect on those observations as it relates to the rubric itself. Observers should focus on providing relevant feedback on marked descriptors and how you want them to grow for improved practices. The language of the rubric should be used to ensure an accurate interpretation of these standards. Post-observations should be linked back to the descriptors, not the rating category, because no one observation should fully inform a teacher's rating. So as we're conducting these post-observation conferences, please we encourage you not to talk about the ratings, the developing, the proficient, the accomplished, and the distinguished at all, but talk about the knowledge, the action, the interaction, and the extension. So always draw the teachers back to the language of the rubric itself. Do you know it? Do you show it? Is it showing within the students in your classroom? And then is it showing outside of your classroom? Are you extending to your peers? So think about those things, and teachers, the whole point of is getting them to grow and to reflect on their own practices. So if we do this, we only evaluate them and actually give them the developing, proficient, accomplished, and distinguished titles at the end of the year when we evaluate. So when we're observing, we want you to focus more on the descriptors themselves. Okay. And this is the evaluation process. As you can see, it's marked off for what is required for the comprehensive cycle, the standard cycle, and the abbreviated cycle. And you can also find this within our resources and in the observation manual.
Yeah, and I was going to, all of these are linked on here. I can click on this and it will open. So when you do have your slide deck, these are all linked.
Yes.
All right, if we have no questions for Jennifer, we're going to go back to the plan side of things. And when you're in NCEES, you should be familiar by now with the little activity icons. But a gray circle that some people call a pizza or a flower, if it's fully gray, it's not started. If it's 3/4 blue, it's in progress. If it's orange, it's either incomplete or has been reopened. And then once everything is complete, you get the green check with the green circle. So this is, now that we're heading towards middle of year, what must be done as we head into what can open the summative container at the end of the year. So middle of the year, we're now getting to observation 2. So you should have observation 1 done for any of these plan types, comprehensive, standard, abbreviated, or late hire. Observation 2 is required for the first 3. Late hire is optional, but you can do observation 2 and late hire plan. That's your local decision. And then that will be take us through middle of year. Then you can look over to the rest of the way to see what else has to be done before that summary evaluation container will open for access. So looking at the observation cycle, the pre-observation conference starts with the principal or the observer. This is an optional step. And then it goes to the teacher to acknowledge or the staff. Then comes the formal or informal observation, depending on the plan type decisions. And then post-observation conference is completed by the principal. It goes back to the teacher or support staff to acknowledge the post-observation conference. They can also do a written response, which they can do actually at any time in the period. If a written response is submitted, the evaluator or observer must acknowledge that. They'll get an email. And then finally, once everything is done and in place and ready to close up this whole activity, the evaluator will lock the observation activity. And just another reminder that if you aren't getting those finalized or locks, you must go back and find all those missing asterisk areas, those required areas that have not been done. So we're going to look at completing observation 2. You're going to open your staff's plan and you're going to see a green check for their training and orientation, a green check that observation 1 is complete, and now you can access observation 2. If you still see a circle with an I in it on observation 2, something is not complete above. So here is just another way to look at required observation activities in observation 2, depending on the plan types. Comprehensive, this is showing you where those asterisks are going to be for the overall containers. But, you know, as you open each container, there are some lower level activities that also must be completed. One thing while you're working in staff evaluations, so if you're working on just comprehensive plans that day, if you've never noticed, when you open a comprehensive plan for one teacher, there'll be this little member icon, group icon. It looks like a little head and shoulders with a lot of people heads around it. You can click on that so you don't have to go out of this plan, go back to the staff evaluations page, find your next person. If you're just working on this one same plan type, you can click the head and shoulders icon and it'll give you a list of everybody else that's on that plan type. so you can easily navigate to your next person without going out and back in, out and back in. Another tip is don't finalize your observation until you've held that conference activity. That's because if they provide artifacts or other data for you that you can now update the rubric and add some additional tally marks, you don't have to get your district administrator to reopen the activity if you've left it open. Now you can go back and then complete that and then close it, and then you can both acknowledge your signatures at the end of that. Do make sure you share your observation. If you're not seeing finalize in the menu option, you're either missing a check mark on the tallies. Each element in the standard has to have at least one box that's tallied or checked. So the zeros change to a 1 when you check it. And then you must also share this with your staff. We did just have a recent update. I hope everybody has noticed. And I don't know if I've added a graphic here. I hope I have in the next couple slides. If not, I'll show you live. But now in the rubric, when you put a tally mark or check a box, it turns orange. So now it's a lot easier to see which line might be missing a check tally. So hopefully you guys like that. We just had that updated by PowerSchool within the last 2 weeks. The observation rubric, if it's not matching the staff's plan type, most often this happens for your support staff, your counselors, your ITFs, your different areas like that. They might be seeing a teacher rubric. It's either because they started the PDP before the plan type was set. It could be any number of reasons. However, what must happen is that they should notify their principal or the person setting their plan types to go to the My Staff page, make sure the plan types are set correctly. So if this is a counselor, make sure it says school counselor, and if it's standard or comprehensive, make sure it's set correctly. Make sure the PDP is set. Make sure it has processed at least one overnight. It has to process. Then you can advise the staff to come in here and go under the menu and delete the rubric. If it's the observation, the evaluator does this step. The rule is whoever starts the rubric has the rights to delete the rubric. You don't have to delete the whole plan to get the rubric to update. You can, as long as the plan types are set, process one overnight, then the person that started the rubric can come back in here, click this little menu, and here I've got it shown down here on the right, and you'll have the delete. It will process and put a blank rubric in there with the correct rubric. So if they've done any tally marks they want to save, they need to print it out first. Any questions about that? I did just do a tips webinar, and I did include a link to that on slide 18 as a video on how to do this step. I did put a screenshot. So here's a screenshot of the new change color. Now when you check off a tally mark or descriptor, it puts a 1 and it turns it orange. Note about written responses that your staff can enter. You will receive an email. It actually comes from no reply at pl.powerschool.com now, but it will come to the evaluator, and then you come in and do your acknowledgement steps. It is now set as of last year that you must come in here and choose yes, that you've received that written response and reviewed it. And then you can just save and exit and acknowledge that the written response was received and looked at. Staff acknowledgement, we always like to remind you that the staff are not signing that they agree with their conference. What the acknowledgement represents neither acceptance or approval of the report. It indicates that the process has been followed. And you can read over this as well. The process has been followed. This doesn't happen a lot, but occasionally you will have somebody that does not want to sign. So then the plan is stuck because the teacher acknowledgement is not in place and it cannot move forward. Only in the observations, not in the summary evaluation, is this document override process. So your district decides who can do the document override. Will it be your NCEES district administrator? Will it be an observer? Or will it be the evaluator? One of those three can do this step. That's your district's decision. We do not require which one. You decide that. You'll do the document override and submit it. You'll get a green check on the override. It does take overnight to put a green check on the teacher acknowledgement. And then you can move on with the plan. Any questions about the override? So that's the teacher evaluation. We will have their webinar next Tuesday if you'd like to sit in on that, and we'll be a little bit more in depth. Let's move on to the PDP cycle. And here you see your 3 PDP plans, individual, monitored, and directed. And there's the link to the help guides over here on the right for PDP development plan for teachers, for the evaluators, and for the mentors that have to do their signature step. The PDP is a roadmap for teacher growth, individual, school, and district goals aligned with your school improvement plan and with teacher effectiveness data. This is the review cycle for your PDP. The teacher would have done the first step, and that should be completed now. The principal would then sign. For the mid-year review, the teacher does their first step. The evaluator then reviews and signs. The mentor, if required, for those new teachers, the system is not going to require it, so you're going to need to keep a close eye on which of these PDPs is a teacher that is a new teacher on a comprehensive plan. And it's not going to be everybody on the comprehensive plan, just your new teachers are required to have the mentor signature. Then the teacher would sign off, and then the evaluator can do the locking activity. Watch for those required activities in your PDP plans as well. The mid-year review is required. The evaluator signature is required. Notice that the PDP does not have a required asterisk on it because this could be for anybody on any other type of plan as well. Even some of your new teachers you put on comprehensive plans because they're new, and that is perfectly fine. So you're going to need to keep up with which teachers must have that mentor signature. Then the PDP teacher signature is required, and then the evaluator must lock the activity. Oh, my computer is changing. Sorry about that. So that's your required activities. And then the PDP evaluator signature, this is a screenshot of what that looks like. You can enter your comments and enter any attachments. And once that's done, you can acknowledge the step. The next container down is the record of evaluation activities. This is where you can print out your PDP initial review, your mid-year review, and then later on your end-of-year review. And then there's the overall record of teacher activities or the signature activities. This is the very last one. Any questions about the PDP plans? Jennifer, do you have anything to add about the PDP plans?
No, not unless they have any specific questions about, who has what kind of plan. You did great.
All right, thank you. I don't see any questions coming in.
I don't either.
I'll talk a little bit about professional development of your staff as they're trying to meet their goals here at mid-year. Evaluators and staff both have access to what we call the light bulb feature. It is in the rubrics, and I know this screenshot is probably a little small on your screen, but when our DPI staff create courses and align them to the standards, it will pop a little light bulb on the rubrics, as long as they usually do it to the teacher evaluation rubrics, and that will be your standard, your comprehensive, and your late hire plans. NCEES has where they have to do abbreviated plans separately, so I don't know that those always get connected, But if they've aligned to the teacher evaluations or even to the administrative evaluations, that will pop that little light bulb up there. And that light bulb means you can go find courses that are aligned to the standard. So if you have a teacher that has put as their goal that they're trying to build their grow on their leadership skills, and maybe they're struggling a little bit, or they want to find a course to help them meet that goal, they can click on the light bulb, or you as the evaluator can click on the light bulb. There is a help guide here. And once you click on the light bulb, the staff would just register for the courses they see. But the evaluator would come over here and they would say, that looks like a good course. You can actually click into the course title to read more about it. If you want to assign the course, you would check the box. You would recommend or require the course, and then you would post it so that they could see it on their My Courses page as recommended or required. So depending on what you chose, recommended or required, then it will post here. Now, when you do that, it will add your name on their little note that shows up on their My Courses page as to who assigned it to them. So that way they know who to go to if they have a question about why they were assigned a course. Any questions about that step? Does anybody need to see that? Are we good? Yes, I'm really quiet today. We used to have a site from NCDPS. NCDPS builds a lot of courses for DPI. They used to have rt3nc.org, and this is just a reminder that that page is now gone. This is their new page. It's linked on this slide, so make sure you check that out. I also have a self-paced courses list published here from DPI. It includes the NCDPS courses and all our other department courses as well. In fact, our Canvas manager, he just recently added 2 new courses that your staff can use. So go check out that list there as well. It's sometimes a little easier to look at this spreadsheet than it is to go in NCEES professional development and try to find the course. I do see a question. Is there a link to the site? Yes. Let me go get that for you. Post it. Back in the chat. All right. There you go. All right. And then you guys need reports and other resources. So I did want to review that. And we're making good time today. So quick reports. This is navigating in NCEES to the reports tab. Anybody with site or district administrator access can get to the reports tab. So your reports will only return what and who you have access to. So what location, how many people you have access to, that is what these reports will return. It also only returns information on active plans. So if your staff have not started their plans, they will not be included in this report. A lot of times I get people saying, I ran my mentor relationship report, but it's not showing all my mentors that I know I just assigned. Most likely it's because somebody has not started their plan yet. They need to start the plans to be included in these reports. So this, if you need a list of what reports are out here, because you click out here and it's got this long list you can scroll through. You can also click the word here and it will give you a written out list and a description of each of these reports. So the activity lock report is good. You cannot lock an activity until all the steps are completed, all the required steps. This is also good for those non-required steps because you can't lock activity until the signatures are in place. So the non-required activities like peer on a standard plan, or additional observations that you're doing, or the late hire plan, the only required activity is that first observation. The rest of the observations are not required, but you're doing observation to run your activity log report or run your evaluation completion exception report to help determine which areas have been completed. Both of those first 2 are very good reports to run. These evaluation summaries will not work until the end of the year because that's reporting on the summary evaluations. Other good reports for the district administrators to run is make sure all your individuals are correct. make sure they're not in more than one school district. And those that have individuals who belong to more than one site within a district, school A, school B, that could be okay, but may not be. So make sure that that's done, and then you can get with your HR payroll people to make sure they've updated the staff data in Staff UID to be correct. Also under reporting, under quick reports, oh, here's just another, I wanted to show you one of the reports. The evaluation completion exception report is here, and I know it's small on this screen, but when you open your slide, you can see it. But you can see that it shows this activity is completed, this one's not started. It will show in progress on some, so now you can see who is at what point in their plan. This is one that's not, I don't think it's good for printing out, but it's very good to go look at and also get those percentages that sometimes your superintendents are wanting to see. This is under reporting, and it's the very first report that comes up, and it's called GP status. If you're running as a district administrator, you can select just your district or run by school. If you're coming in as a site administrator, you're probably only going to have access to one school to run, but that's okay. You're going to click next, and it's going to give you a report that looks like this. It's going to tell you how many people are on the plan type you selected. Here, I selected abbreviated, and I have 4 people on abbreviated plan. I have 0 people not started, 2 are in progress, and 2 are complete. And here you can see you have your percentages. You can expand out into any one of these areas to see who is in what area. So of the 2 that are complete, under the pre-observation, here I have for the evaluator conference signatures, 2 are orange, 2 are not started, 1 is in progress, and 1 is complete. So this is just a good report just to go view where your staff are at. And you can actually keep drilling down in and get individual names as well. So do take a look at those reports and run those and see if they might be good for you. And we are at the end of our slides, so I wanted to give you our feedback form. Let me get that link. We do like for you to fill our feedback form out. Also, if you want a certificate, the last 2 questions in the feedback form are, do you want a certificate? And I put that link in the chat. You can also use this QR code here to do it on your device. If I'll leave that up there for a minute, if you want to use a QR code. This is a 1-hour webinar, so you would receive 0.1 CEU general credit type back by email, usually within 15-20 minutes. Once you submit the feedback, you'll get that in your email, and you'll need to print out your email and then turn it into your district. So your district is the one who's going to approve. We don't approve the credits that you're wanting to apply towards your licensure. Your district does that. Okay, do we have any questions at all? A couple more slides and we're going to wrap up today. Holler if you need the QR code back. This is our new NCEES resource site. I wanted to show you that. So I'm going to click on this link. It is bit.ly, bit.ly/NCEES, NCEES-resources. So please bookmark this. This is a site that is replacing the old Google site. It's been very well received so far. It's very simple to follow and looks sort of similar to our Google site. You're going to find all the evaluation processes for teachers, principals, support staff, central office, and superintendents. So as you click in each one, you're going to find resources. So we'll do teacher. There's the policies, some procedure documentation and information, additional resources, some fillable forms if you need fillable forms, questions for your teachers, pre-teacher service rubrics. And then the final tab is just a comparison chart if you're ever curious about how the standards align through the different roles in the system. Just click down into there between teachers, teacher leadership specialists, and so on. You can see how they're lined up. Come back home. Did want to talk real quick about this year we added support demographic in NCEES, which is for people that are accessing PD only. And I just want to let you know that they are in there under support demographic. These staff most of them are in there under instructional demographic, and that's how it's under the description. They fall under the teacher or instructor definition. So these roles are under the instructor, and they can have evaluations in NCEES except for the ones that have an asterisk. So career development coordinator is in NCEES evaluation. Instructional ITS are in NCEES. The occupational therapist, the physical therapist, SLPs, school nurses are not evaluated in NCEES. I'm saying that because our new roles that we just assigned includes some of the SLP roles. And some of you have been used to giving them a PDP or even a plan in NCEES. However, they have resources out here for their plans and for their goals. And that's found right here. Their growth plan, their evaluation user guide, their evaluation activities, self-assessment, and rating form. So that's where you're going to find your SLP forms. Do you have any questions about that? I know I've been getting quite a few in our support tickets. So out here, you're going to find our webinar series. When we finish our webinars, we always post these back in our recordings and our presentation and any questions that needed to be answered. All right, so check that out. Next slide is our admin resource hub. The one we just looked at is a public site, so anybody can get to that site. This site, you must be active in NCEES. And if you come out here and click on this course link and you get that you're not authorized, email me or Dr. Corey McNeil with Canvas, and we will make sure to update your account. Let's see if I can get logged in here. See what it looks like. So this has been well received for our new district administrators in NCEES. Even site administrators can find resources out here. If you're new or feel you want some additional training, check out the Getting Started to start with. See the welcome letter, like a little check steps in there for how to set up NCEES, an explanation about NCEES here, the DPI page for NCEES, a contacts list for your PSU leads if you have questions for other districts that work with NCEES. NCEES information and resources site is linked here, and then processes as well here. I'll be updating the help guides this week, and we are also going to be updating our home-based meetups links. So this is where your DAs usually come meet with us once a quarter. So a lot of this has good information. We'll come back home. You won't see all these links on the left. I just see it because I'm at state level. I do have beginning of year resources out here and end of year build out. So beginning of year is built out, end of year is built out for the most part. Middle of year will be updated by the end of this week. We'll take a quick look at beginning of the year. And it's built out according to the year. So it gives you the steps of what needs to be done. And then it's going to give you all the activities, all the documents, all the steps you need to do throughout the year. So July, August, now we're in September, past September, information about my staff, information about the plans, and reports that you can do in NCEES. So all of this is information that's available to you guys that are managing NCEES. So check that out, and we will have middle of year updated by the end of the week. Okay, any questions about that? All right, here's our upcoming webinars. So next week is middle of year, and then we'll meet back in November for some reporting webinars. And then that's all webinars for this year. We'll have some more back when it's time for end of year webinars next year. We do have a NCEES playlist, so if you ever want to go out and check out our past recorded webinars, they're listed here as well. And we do have a Facebook site, so check that out. If you want to contact us, here in the middle is our NCEES folks, our NCEES team. So email us there. All our names are linked. And this is the link to our contacts page. We do depend on our districts to update us so that we can update that page. And then we have an advisory board that's going to be meeting October 26th. They come to DPI and they see what's upcoming new for NCEES and all things like that. And then they go back to the districts and let you guys know. They can bring your questions to the advisory board as well. So that's your group there as well. And again, this is my email address and my office hours. Administrators, you're welcome to check out my calendar link there and set an office hour meeting with me if you have any questions about how to set up staff, how to give them access rights, things like that. I'm happy to meet for 30 minutes or an hour and walk you through all of that. And then do we have any other questions? If not, Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
I don't, but I'm welcome to answer any questions if there are any out there.
All right, well, I do want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and say you guys have a great evening. We are going to hang on for a minute or two. I'm going to stop the recording first and then hang on. So if you have a question you want to ask that is not recorded, we'll be here for a couple minutes. So thank you guys. Have a great evening.